largest public health institution in the world, and also a branch of the Brazilian Ministry of Health. In Oswaldo Cruz Foundation, we deal with all kinds of things related to health. We do assistance, research, and also education. And we have a very small group trying to think how games can be integrated in public health policies. And today I'm presenting you our very initial studies in this field. It's also part of a PhD dissertation. So I will do a quick introduction about health and how we see health and communication, health communication. That's the main goal of our institute. And then I will discuss a bit about games, serious games, and detail what we can say about participation and the ties with games in health. We also conducted a very initial study, empirical study with interviews with players, and I will present also the results. Okay? Well, in Brazil we have the SUS, Unified Health System. It's one of the largest health systems in the world. And the SUS tries to provide care for all population in Brazil, and all kinds of levels, primary, secondary, tertiary levels of attention. And it's also embodies some political beliefs. One of them is that one of the main objects of SUS is trying to get the population together with managers, health managers, with governments, to build together better health policies. So there is a very interest in getting people to participate. For this, health communication is a very important part of all that. So there are a lot of different media used by the ministry, used by SUS, going for brochures, books, manuals, outdoors, leaflets, and now videos, TV, radio, campaigns, and also social network profiles and such. But the main problem with this communication, we see, is exactly in this picture. You see a centralized point, creating some message, and just broadcasting. Our problem today is gather the view of the population, what they think, how they receive that. It's not a passive assimilation of contents. They have their ideas, they have their beliefs, and we have to take it into account in building better health policies. So we thought about using games, because games allow at least a bit more flexibility in trying to, in the sense that each player has his or her own pathway inside the game, and we are trying to go into this direction. Of course, the use of health games is not new. We have more than 20 years of history, and we have many remarkable products in this sense. The idea that making games fun and at the same time bettering the health of the people. But at the same time, we had many products we've suffered poor translations from the content part to the play side. You know the type of games I'm saying? That's boring games, and where there are walls of text, almost no interaction, and in this sense, it's a great loss of resources and time with the media. One of the main theories in serious games, it's Jan Bogost's procedural rhetorics. And basically he says that while other media like books and movies, they persuade, they express themselves through text, through image, through animation and such, the main power of games is persuading, is expressing through processes, through procedures. So it's playing the game, experiencing the game, that I'm learning exactly its sense, its meaning for me. And it was a very successful idea in the field, and it still is very important. However, there is some consequence of this thinking. when you put so much focus on the procedure, the game designer, the idea is the game designer carefully crafts an experience. And the role of the player is basically pass for this experience, connecting the dots, and then learning the contents. And the player becomes basically an actuator of the game. And it's such is that the Bogost himself says that the meaning of the game is in the rules. And the game is the rules. But in saying that, maybe he is forgetting about these guys, right? The players. We say that we can see that even when we are dealing with books and movies, people have widely different interpretations of what they see. So in games, it's not different. And we have to take into account these people when we think and research and games about health. Because ultimately, it's their health what we are talking about. And in this, looking for a complementary idea, a supplementary idea to Bogost's procedural rhetoric, we think about participation as proposed by Professor Joost Rassens in this, when he says that computers games is a participatory media culture. When you play, you participate. If you want or not, you are participating. And he defines three main domains of participation in games. Interpretation, that games share with other media like movies and books, where basically you process the information that you are receiving. Of course, the arrow is just a crude simplification of very complex process, but anyway, it's just to give a broad idea. There is also reconfiguration, that's very typical of games. That's you are interacting with the game in two senses, that you change the view, you look, you walk, you change your view of the game world, and you also interact to game world. You open a bottle, you fire a gun, whatever, you are changing the state of the world. These two are the main domains, are the main uses of games, as we see today, in commercial games, entertainment games. We can maybe say that some games, some serious games, have problems in putting too much focus on interpretation. Again, walls of text, much more text than allowing the player, in fact, play the game. But the third mode, construction, it's way interesting for us. Construction is when the player gives something to the game. He adds something to the game. Professor Rassens, he understands this idea as people putting code alterations in games. It's very common in the game world, the code scene, the modding scene, where people create mods, modifications of game. So if you don't like a part of the game, you write a bit of code that change the game, and then you play how you prefer. And there are a lot of different styles of modding, but Professor Rassens includes all that in the construction, like some kind that involving code, programming skills. One good example of this is the game Skyrim, where you are basically it's a fantasy game, very successful, where you inspired in Viking fantasy, and you are a warrior, battle dragons, and all that. And the company that make this game, it made very easy to mod the game. So players, the world is already very big in this game. It's a very wide space to explore, but they give players tools so the players can create additions to the game, and we can see things like this, and this, and also this, and of course this. Now, I'm sure that everyone here agrees that the inclusion of Batman in any game is very beneficial for health. It's much more awesome. But, so construction is a very interesting part, because it's the moment where the player really creating something. Of course, no, it's not easy to require for everyone to learn like programming again. We decided to conduct a study in World of Warcraft. It's an online game. There is this social part that's important for us. and it's the biggest MMO in the world. It's the only one translated and adapted to Portuguese. So we conducted an interview with 22 players in Rio de Janeiro. The idea was how to understand how do they play. And these players, they have 18 years old or more. And we have 3 kinds of questions, a group of questions in 3 groups. Experience with games, opinions about serious games and health games, and behavior within the game and with other players. So the first thing, funny thing is, when we asked about serious games, the first reaction was, oh, educational games are boring. Okay, they didn't even process the idea of serious games. We had to explain, okay, serious games are not exactly educational games, but they really hate this thing, and because they are boring games, they're not really games, but textbooks in disguise. And I'm quoting, these things make me hate games in general. They are so awful, I don't learn. I became angry when people give me something to test. And so the idea of educational games is not a good one, but we look a lot of social activities and discovered that is very important to players. At least for this group of players, the main attraction to such a game was the opportunity to be with friends, and the main direction was, I have real-life friends in physical world, and then I invite them to the world, and then we play together. So the game became a kind of third space for fellowship and companion and meetings and all that. And it was also very common, the idea of going outside to go to a bar or restaurant to meet your fellow players, and also a sense of Dutch with them inside the game. Like you had to help your guildmates or your group. A third part that we really interesting were players' creations, in which players spend the virtual worlds with cartoons, machinima, with websites, with tutorials, with comics. So there is a very intense interest in amplifying the words, expanding beyond the borders of the game. This kind of interest is very nice for us to think about applying this to health. One of the players, a couple, they were in a relationship, and so they had two characters, and they walk around the World of Warcraft, the places, and took pictures of themselves like a kind of virtual album of their relationship inside the World of Warcraft. And there was also social roles created over the game rules. So we had role-playing in a lot of different forms: parties, weddings, alliances, wars, trusts, elections. So players created systems over the game rules. It was their creation. One of the examples was the Naked Raid, where players go together, adventuring completely naked, or almost completely naked, just for the fun of it. In a less funny note, there is the case where a player died in real life, and then the players conducted a funeral inside the game. In our interviews, we look at these same events happening, people creating systems for dealing with wars, alliances, and also trading, a lot of different social interactions that codified by themselves into the game, without writing code, but through social rules. And one of my participants of my interview, he told that he decided, he got bored, and then he and a friend decided to create a war in his server. They started spreading rumors between the two factions of World of Warcraft, and then a major war broke up. Everything decided to kill everybody, and in the end, people have to get together and make a peace treaty to make the game playable again. So our conclusions. First was unexpected idea of finding that construction has defined as code additions could include also construction in creative aspects. So when you create a story, create a drawing about a game you're playing, is also an effort of construction. Also the social aspects, when you decide that you are playing the game like a pacifist without killing anyone, you are changing the rules, you are adding something to the world. So it's a construction. And what a game about health could give us for that? First, could foster, this is a tentative, like I said, we are not in the process of creating yet, we are hoping for that, but we can foster people participation, giving them voice and opportunity for action, much more intense than the traditional media. We can highlight the collective nature of health in society. We can, in games like that, online games, we can show them that the health of one person can influence the health of another one. We can allow experimentation of rehearsing of new procedures, new approaches for public health policy. So we can design fake health systems in the world, see how people react to that, see how people contribute, how they understand. Could be small forums, living forums for people dealing and discussing about health, which is one of the main interests in SUS, in getting the people's voice about their views of health. And in the end, ultimately, it would contribute for expanding protagonism, making people, even playing the game, they would fostering their citizenship skills and participation and reduce inequality of voice. When you have people, they don't have ability to make themselves heard in society, but maybe in a game, we could heard and collect their ideas. Okay, just to make this presentation to appear like a serious research, I brought a chart. And this graphic is research conducted in Brazil to 2010. And, well, it's all self-explanatory, but you can see how they measure the gigantic importance of games for children getting their first steps in the internet. 92% of children started using games as a way to reach internet. So it's a kind of emphasize the importance of our research that we think of looking how to make this more useful for these guys, and not in only the physical world, but you can see in all the social networks we've built in the physical world around the games. Okay, and this is my presentation. Thank you very much.